Hey goodies, welcome back to my kitchen. Before I get into this delicious recipe, if you are not subscribed to my channel, please go ahead and click that subscribe button so you can see when I upload all of my new videos in which I share my keto recipes, my keto journey, my keto life, including my husband and my 3 beautiful kids. So without further ado, let's get cooking. All right, so we're going to start by preparing our beef filling. I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of ghee in my pot and start frying up my ground beef. This is about a pound of ground beef, and I'm using my meat crusher to get it broken down into small pieces. I'm also going to add 2 teaspoons of chopped garlic because we need flavor, and I'm going to use my meat crusher to continue to combine that. Next, I'm going to add my green seasoning. I have a recipe for that in my keto jerk chicken recipe video, which I will link above, and it adds so much flavor. Next, I'm going to add allspice, about a teaspoon of allspice for more authentic Jamaican flavor, and I'm going to add some black pepper. You can eyeball it. I think that's about half a teaspoon of black pepper. Next, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of dried thyme. Fresh thyme is better, but I'm working with what I have. Next, I'm going to salt my beef. Use salt to your discretion. And then I'm going to add some curry. I added more curry than I was supposed to because I was getting sidetracked by the kids, but you only want to add about a teaspoon of curry just for a little curry flavor. I added too much, but please believe it was delicious, and my husband and the kids loved it. So if you love curry, this is not a bad mistake. But if you want the authentic Jamaican beef patty flavor, stick to a teaspoon of curry. Next, we're going to add some tomato sauce. And if you see here, I'm adding the tomato sauce instead of ketchup because this is a better low carb version. So I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of tomato sauce because we're getting to that authentic Jamaican beef patty flavor. So I'm going to stir that around now and get it incorporated. And then we're going to add some green onion, and you're going to see I hold back on some of the green onion because I already have green onion in my green seasoning. Now let's spice up our dish with some Scotch bonnet pepper. You can add the whole Scotch bonnet pepper to your pot with water. You can see there's water in the pot now. I added about a cup of water. Or you can cut up your Scotch bonnet pepper and take out the seeds. It all depends on how spicy you want your dish. So I chose to leave my Scotch bonnet pepper there with my cup of water, and I'm going to cook down the meat with the seasoning and the pepper and take out the pepper when the time is right. I don't know how to describe it. You just know when to take it out. What you try to avoid is the pepper bursting and releasing all of the spice. So I took mine out when I wanted it at the right level of spice. So here I am removing my Scotch bonnet pepper. Now we're going to let the meat cook down and get rid of some of that liquid and increase the flavor of our beef. Here goes the fun part, goodies. We're going to make our dough. So I'm going to crack 1 egg, and to that I'm going to add a tablespoon of curry and half a teaspoon of turmeric for color and for flavoring. I'm also going to add 2 packets of stevia just to slightly sweeten the dough because authentic beef patty does have a slight sweetness in the dough. Next, we're going to add about 3.5 cups of mozzarella cheese to a microwave safe dish, and we're going to microwave it and turn it at 30-second increments until we get to this consistency right here. Now we're going to add our egg mixture to the cheese, and we're going to keep turning the cheese and egg mixture until it is uniform. However long that takes you, you do that. I use this cake cutter here because it works. I keep turning it and putting some force in there until it looks uniform in color and texture. To prepare my dry ingredients, I'm going to add 1.5 cups of almond flour and 1 teaspoon of baking powder to my next dish, and I'm going to make sure that is mixed up uniformly. And then I'm going to add my cheese and egg mixture to the almond flour, and I'm going to knead that as long as it takes until again it is uniform. The more uniform it is, the more authentic your dough is going to feel and taste. You want that right texture, so continue to knead it until you get a uniform ball of dough. I'm coming to the end of my kneading process, and you're seeing that my dough is a little sticky. As I move it around the bowl, it's sticking. So I'm going to put it in the fridge so that my dough can firm up a little bit more and we can have that authentic texture. While my dough is firming up in the fridge, I check on my beef just to make sure that the liquid is coming out and our beef is flavoring up. And as you can see here, there's very little liquid, so we won't have any leaking in our patties. And taste your beef. See if it needs some salt, if it needs some garlic, taste it and make sure it's right. From what I can see and what I can taste, my beef is ready. So let's go and form our patties. I'm going to start by putting down some wet paper towels so that when I put down my parchment paper, it will not slide all over my counter. You can see I have granite countertops, so I have to put some extra precautions in place to make sure it stays and doesn't give me trouble. So let's put our dough down and flatten it just a little bit. Then I'm going to put my top piece of parchment paper on top of that dough. And don't laugh at me and don't make any comments. I am using a wine bottle because I could not find my roller. And to all those who don't have rollers, this is for you. This is a shout out to you. You can make patties too without a roller. You can use a wine bottle, and that is what I did. I rolled it around until my dough reached about 1 inch of thickness, and then I went on to start shaping out my circles. To shape my circles, I'm using the cover of my protein powder container. You can use whatever circular item you can find to do this. There's no rule as to what you can use. You can use a plate and use a knife to cut out your circles. This is what I found to be the easiest. So I used the cover from my protein shake container, and I just made that circular motion until I cut out my circle. So I'm going to show this process to you a couple of times, maybe about 3 more times, so you can see exactly how I did it and you can get it right. So as you can see here, I'm getting about 4 circles from this batch, but I'm just going to roll this dough up from the parts that I haven't cut, and then I'm going to flatten it out again like I did previously. And then I'm going to have another large circle to work with, and I'm going to cut out about 4 more circles. And I'll just keep on repeating this process until I get all of the dough used up as much as possible. I got about, I want to say about 10 circles from this, and I could have gotten about 11 or 12. I had a little bit excess from the batch that I did not use for the patties, but I did play around with it for something else with the kids. You can see here, if you don't have, enough in the dough that you rolled out, you can just take a little piece and add it on there at the bottom. Don't be scared of your dough. You're in control, and form your circles as best you can. And like you're going to see here, I lift this up and then I'm going to reform that dough and do it again. But I'm not going to show you that whole process. You get the drift now. So let's go on and start filling our patties. So I'm going to take about a tablespoon or 2 of our beef that we had on the stove, our flavorful beef, and you're going to stuff it in there with your finger so that none is spilling out. And then you're going to press those outer corners down to seal up your patty. And you're just going to press down there with your finger, and then you're going to take a fork to make those authentic little ridges that we have in our Jamaican beef patties. And we're almost on our way. So I'm going to show you this process a couple more times because I know it can be a little intimidating, but I promise you, I was intimidated by this process and it was fairly easy to do. So again, you stuff the center of your circle with about a tablespoon or 2. Be careful not to overstuff your patties, or else you're going to have tearing of the dough, and you don't want that. You don't want anything spilling out, and you don't want your dough tearing. So fill it appropriately depending on the size of the circles that you form, whether it be a protein shake container cover or a plate. Fill it according to the size of your circle. And make sure that you're not overstuffing it, and you're using your fork there again just to get those little ridges. And you're gonna see I'm poking holes, about 3 holes in the top of the patty, and that's just to let it breathe there so it's not exploding in your oven and it's not gonna burn you when you bite into it. So one last time, we're going to fill another circle here, stuff it in the center. And you're going to see that I stuffed some cheese in some of them and some I didn't. The kids were egging me on to do that. And I didn't consider that the dough is already made of cheese. So I didn't really need more cheese, but they said they wanted some to be cheesy and some not to. And I didn't even stop to explain to them that the dough had cheese in it. But you're going to see how those turned out. It was delicious. So if you want to do that, you can. The only thing I would say to do differently is to mix the cheese in with your beef and not put it on top, because you'll see how that turns out at the end of the video. So one last time for the students in the back, here goes one of our cheesy ones. I stuff the beef in the center, press it down on the outer corners, and then going fast with this one because we should be experts by now. Use your fork, get your ridges on the side, poke your holes in the top, and then we're going to bring this onto our non-stick sheet on whichever tray you can find, and this is how they turned out. Now we're going to add our patties to the oven at 350 degrees for 18 to 20 minutes or until the patties have browned. And voila, here are our authentic Jamaican beef patties. Aren't they beautiful? I'm so proud of them. And they taste delicious. The kids love them. My husband loved them. And here goes a little slow-mo action here of me breaking them to show you that, yes, the texture is perfect. The taste is perfect. You got to try it. So if you enjoyed this video, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. If you have not subscribed yet because you did not follow directions in the beginning of this video, go ahead and do it and stop being rebellious. See you in my next video.